Well, you've got more international news for us here.
This is a busy neighborhood, Brian. Georgia is itself very troubled. To the south is Armenia, which has been pummeled by Azerbaijan, which is to the east of Georgia and Armenia. To the south of that is Iran. It has now been confirmed this morning that the Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi and his foreign minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian were among those who were killed in this sorry scene. Not the sharpest of pictures, but that is what happened to President Raisi's helicopter as he was returning from the border between the Iranian province of East Azerbaijan and the nation of the Republic of Azerbaijan. It's confusing because that territory called Azerbaijan was split between the Tsarist-era Russians and the Persians, so there are places in Iran now called Azerbaijan. What was going on was that President Raisi and his party were attending the launch of a dam on the border between Iran and Azerbaijan, and on the way back, for inexplicable reasons, which may or may not have to do with the mist in those notoriously remote hills, the helicopter was downed or crashed. Extremely sensitive timing, because Azerbaijan is a close ally of Israel, and because Armenia, in retaliation, has formed strong ties with Iran, which is confusing to people because Armenia is the Christian nation, and you'd expect it to be against Iran, but that's the way things go in this region. That people have thought that perhaps there was some tampering with the helicopter, possibly by the Azeris from north of the border, from the Independent Republic of Azerbaijan, the Israel-allied nation, when Raisi was on the ground. Nobody knows at this juncture, but following so hot on the heels of the attempted assassination of Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico, this is really something. This is Republic of Iran Broadcasting with a reporter up in the misty hills at the scene. There was no sign of life there. They took hours to get up to the site and then took another 12 hours combing over it. Here is Reuters confirming this morning that Raisi has been killed. That's the scene of the crash, and you can see that the very thin nation of Armenia is just to the northwest. And what's either side of Armenia, so not highlighted, but the greyed out country, both to the west and to the east of Armenia there, so north and northwest of the helicopter crash scene, that is Azerbaijan, which is closely allied with Israel. I don't need to say more to our clued up audience as to the reasons why people may think that this was an Israeli retaliation, because they will be following Vanessa Beeley's contributions here and other people's contributions elsewhere. The Georgia-based blogger Money Circus thinks that something is off with this. I am not a helicopter communications or navigation expert by any stretch of the imagination, but he points out that there were 3 helicopters, and therefore the nature of the crash and its location was known, but it took time to reach it. He suggests it's possible communications were jammed, and he doesn't think that the idea of a hard landing is a sensible description of what happened. Because you don't land if you fly into the side of a mountain. So it really went off the rails, bang. And in reality, as an Iranian official told Reuters, the president's helicopter was completely burned in the crash incident. So he calls it a manipulation of perceptions. Meanwhile, there is this also regarding just 1 month ago. John Helmer, Dances with Bears, is a very good primary source for a lot of Russian news. And he points out that just a month ago, there were very conflicting, contradictory readouts between Moscow and Tehran on a phone call, perhaps the last, between Putin and Raisi, on what to do with regards to Israel's aggression against Iran in the region. The long and the short of it is that the Iranians were possibly putting words into Putin's mouth that he wanted Israel punished more, or alternatively, the Russians didn't want it to be known in their communique just quite how much support there was for Iran in there. So we don't know what's going to come of that, but it's a possible explanation of what could have induced people to want to get him off the scene. Just this morning, and this is unconfirmed and from Twitter, so high caveats on this, but it's self-explanatory whose side this Twitter handle takes, Mossad Commentary. They were reporting this morning that there were unconfirmed reports of the assassination of the commander-in-chief of the Iranian police, who was shot 7 times, twice as many shots as were landed in Mr. Fico in Slovakia. So it's getting pretty hot indeed. Now, this tension in the region between Armenia and Azerbaijan, which involves Iran in it, is getting to some extraordinary geographical lengths. here on the other side of the world, off the coast of Australia, in the French self-governing colony of New Caledonia, Nouvelle-Calédonie, there have been some serious riots recently because the French Parliament modified the constitution with regard to this overseas territory of France, so that not only the native Kanaks, the autochthonous people, could vote on who governs the island, but also French citizens or anyone else suitably qualified who lived there for 10 years. Lots of rioting, and you might think, what on earth has a South Sea island got to do with the Caucasus? You couldn't get more time zones apart than that. Well, there is an apparent connection. So first of all, we see that the French Interior Minister, Darmanin, has come out and suggested in terms that the Azerbaijanis decided to adopt the cause of the native Kanaks, the disgruntled natives. So that we see here in Le Figaro, that Darmanin is accusing Azerbaijan of interference in the riots and stoking them. And Baku, the capital of Azerbaijan, calls this unfounded. But yet, look at this. Here is a photojournalist snapping what's going on down in New Caledonia. And you can see the second flagpole from the right is topped by the New Caledonian flag with the yellow circle containing the traditional arrow. But below that is the flag of Azerbaijan. Now, that could be somebody LARPing, as they see these days, but it could be something rather more serious than that. Finally, from me in this segment, Russia-related, but not Caucasus-related, in the Sahel, that region of West Africa between the Arab countries and the Black African coastal countries further down, in that zone that is so contested between America, Russia, China, and the European Union at the moment, as we've covered for many years, something remarkable has happened. First of all, to cover it is a Hong Kong law student reporting for Jurist News, obviously, shall we say, a Western mindset site for law students who believe in the rules-based international order, for short. And Chiwai Hu here is reporting that the countries in question, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, which have all had problems, huge problems with Islamists doing horrible things in their country, and who haven't been able to get much help from their former colonial overlord, France, have decided to leave the equivalent of NATO in the region, ECOWAS, well, sort of an equivalent of the EU or NATO, which was always dominated by France and Nigeria, and have formed a new alliance instead. This took some people by surprise, although it was pretty well trailed by those who should have been following it. And the Hindu here, reporting from India, it's good to get other perspectives, this will all be in the show notes, report that this they're calling it an alliance. They're less keen to call it what it actually is, which is a confederation. This is, the last step before you become a single country. Huge news, also given that many countries in that part of West Africa had a currency tied to the French franc for a long time. They are forming a new alliance called the Alliance of Sahel States, the AES. So they're actually a new bloc there, and they're undertaking, as part of this agreement, that the alliance, or I should say confederation, that they're forming, that there will be no French or American military assistance. That will be banned, and instead there'll be Russian military guarantees. A great coup for Russia, however you look at it, and I'm left wondering why France allowed this to happen if it was within its power to stop it, because this leaves France without its uranium mining.
Alex, thank you very much for that comprehensive report. There's a lot of thought necessary when we look at what's happening in these areas and whether parties are working together behind the scenes or not. We'll wait to see.